right off the top today, there's a group of people in the U.S. who are really outraged at politicians, but it has nothing to do with policy issues.
Now, these people believe in the controversial technique of outing politicians, Republican politicians who they believe are homosexual, but whose voting records are anti-gay.
And their new film is called Outrage. Mike Rogers with the film Outrage is here now to talk to us about it today. Mike, thanks very much for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. I have to tell you, and I told you before, that I am a huge opponent of this process of outing. I think everybody is entitled to their private sexual behavior, no matter where they stand publicly, and I have a big problem with this. So
I agree. I don't do outing either.
And what do you do?
I do reporting on hypocrisy of politicians.
But you pick a very little narrow window of hypocrisy. I mean, there's several people who you've used in your film actually who are great hypocrites in the mind of others. One of them is Barney Frank, who's gotten this nation in huge financial trouble this year by his denial of the problems that existed with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac 2 years ago, saying they were in perfect financial health.
And you have no problem talking about it here on TV. So if you believe
but it doesn't involve his private sexual behavior.
But Larry Craig, to make policy and rules against people in the gay community, when he's out there seeking sex from other men, that's very problematic to my community. No other community, Wait. Your community, here's what I have a problem with your community, is you define your community as, quote, gay activists. And no, that's incorrect. I define my community
then why are there so many gay
with an
people who don't like this? Why are there so many gay people who are absolutely flummoxed at this process of outing
Where
people?
are they?
Where are they? They're all over the place. They're gay
people?
Republicans. They're,
first
they're
of all,
gays in the closet who prefer to remain there.
I think we should start by talking about what the film actually does. Your film, is this right, Mike?
Too late for that.
Well, it goes after, some people might be confused already with the arguing, but your film basically goes after politicians, people on Capitol Hill that are...
Or around the country.
But you really target on D.C. and Capitol Hill, right?
Generally people in national office.
So you're going after people that haven't come out of the closet or are hiding their homosexuality.
Correct. They're hiding the fact that they're engaging in sex with other men while they're passing laws to make that activity illegal. And I can't believe that the news would ignore anything along these lines other than in this particular
movie. Are you basically naming people? You say Mr. X, Mrs. X?
We name Charlie Crist, for example, in the movie.
And then by doing that, what do you do to Charlie Crist's family and to his children?
I think Charlie Crist doesn't have any children.
This is what really outrages me. Or there's a number of guys who do have them, or their parents are still alive. And you're hurting people.
Well, wait, then you're saying being gay is wrong. Let me ask you a question.
No, I'm not.
Let me ask you a question.
Absolutely not.
And let me ask you this example.
I take that back, because I do not mean that.
Well, when you point a finger at somebody, but
I'm about ready to do a lot more than point my finger at you.
What would that be?
I take you outside and give you a punch across the face, because that's not what I said, and that's not what I mean.
Well, this is why I'm in the middle of the two men here on the set.
I really do, because I think you're hurting innocent people, and here's what you know very well. Let me explain what you know very well. Sexual behavior is a very, very complex thing. Anybody from Psychology 101 knows this. And you know that people come to their sexual behavior through a variety of means. Some people prefer that it remain private.
Absolutely, and they have that right.
Even if it happens in a bathroom stall.
They have that right.
And it may be, I don't know. I don't know what Charlie Crist's issue is. I don't know what the guy in the bathroom stall.
Larry Craig?
I'm having a senior moment, yeah. Larry Craig, I don't know what his motives were, or what, but I do know this, that it's his own private behavior.
So can we agree that you don't believe the police should be setting up people in bathrooms in public locations?
If there are children present, that's a concern.
Okay, so you want people arrested, but you want it kept secret. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I want people to be allowed to engage in their own private sexual behavior where it is private.
Okay, so if a U.S. Senator, if a United States Senator is arrested in a public bathroom, do you believe that should be public information?
I think that there was a little bit of controversy there in terms of
coercion. It's a public record. It should be out there. Everybody should have access to it.
But let me ask you this example. I have a better example. The example is a guy by the name of Ed Schrock. Ed Schrock was in the U.S. Navy for 23 years, and Ed Schrock toured the country saying, we need to get rid of Don't Ask, Don't Tell because it isn't tough enough.
Right.
We need to more. Now, let me finish.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Then he was discovered on a phone line on a phone line, putting his recordings out there looking for sex with other men on a phone line that anybody could dial into. After 23 years and after 4 years in the House beating up gay people like that, should his double life have been reported on? I mean, is there...
Yes, absolutely.
So we agree. So what you're saying is we agree on outing. Now the difference is...
No.
Wait, let me finish. You just agreed
to that conclusion.
Well, you just agreed. Let me finish. You just agreed with what I do. The only difference in what we think is where do you draw the line?
Right. Here's my question.
I draw it with Ed Schrock and you. We agree.
Here's another case in point here. All right, this guy, this U.S. Senate aide, arrested for arranging a three-way with an undercover informant, and who thought that undercover informant was a 13-year-old male, was previously an employee of the Human Rights Campaign, the nation's largest gay and lesbian rights group. I didn't see that report. Was that in your movie?
Well, first of all,
is that in your movie?
Excuse me.
Is that guy in your movie?
Excuse me. Why?
No.
You don't want to hear my answer. And
no,
this is very, very personal.
Okay, I do have a question,
Clearly, it's more personal to you than to anybody else I've met, ever.
Mike, the question I have for you, I don't know who all you out in the movie, but do you go after politicians on Capitol Hill, male or female, that have an okay voting record, that haven't been anti-gay, but might be closeted?
In fact, I can tell you I've spoken personally to a number of members of the United States House on both sides of the aisle. There's also this complete misunderstanding that I only report on Republicans. That's completely not true. I've reported on a Democratic United States Senator. I've reported on members of the New York State Assembly who held up marriage. So for folks like this to put out complete misinformation, that's what conservatives do. They say they want to. Well, what is the fact?
Hey, Mike,
you said I out gay Republicans.
Here's another fact.
You said I out gay Republicans. That's misinformation.
How many people?
Why don't you respond to that?
How many people do you out in your movie, Mike?
How many Democrats do you out in your movie?
First of all, there are Democrats. Ed Koch, for what he did with people with AIDS as mayor of New York City. He's exposed for all of that. So
what did he do to people with AIDS in New York City?
You haven't seen the movie. How can you judge?
People are responsible for their own
sexual behavior. He didn't talk about AIDS for years in New York City. But here's the question. You haven't even seen the movie. How can you judge what it says?
Right. It's the technique that I find repulsive.
You haven't seen the story.
Give us a breakdown, Mike.
But yet you agree with it in the case of Ed Schrock.
Let's have him answer this. How many people do you out in your movie that are politicians on Capitol Hill?
Well, first of all, it's not my movie. Okay.
The movie you're involved in.
And in fact, I don't out anybody in the movie.
No, you don't name
the movie itself. No, the movie is a much bigger project than me. Blogactive.com is one angle that's followed.
But there are names mentioned in the movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Let me get this question before we run out of time. You do out Mark Foley, the Republican.
I didn't do that. No, I didn't do that.
The movie outs Mark Foley.
I mean, Mark Foley said he's gay to a microphone.
In that regard, one of my favorite writers is Camille Paglia, the openly gay, openly lesbian feminist who teaches at the University of Pennsylvania. Anyway, she wrote about this, about the whole Mark Foley episode. The way the Democratic leadership was in clear collusion with the major media to push the story in the month before the midterm elections seems to me to have been a big fat gift to Ann Coulter and to other conservative commentators who say the mainstream media are simply the lapdogs of the Democrats. Every time I turned on the news, it was Foley, Foley, Foley. After 3 or 4 days of it, as soon as I heard Foley's name, I turned the sound off and switched channels. It was gargantuan overkill, and I felt the Democrats were shooting themselves in the foot. I was especially repulsed by the manipulative use of a gay issue for political purposes by my own party, which is exactly what you're doing.
Well, we can agree to disagree on this because you can find the very rare example of a conservative out columnist. I think there's 2 in the country. There's the guy on LA radio and this woman. But the bottom line is that the overwhelming majorities of people that we talk to, and when you look in the movie, even the guy who was on TV yesterday for the Log Cabin Republicans, they're even starting to come around because the whole dialogue has changed, and here's how. 20 years ago, people would ask, do we have the right to rip these people out of the closet? And now the question is not, do we have the right to rip them out of the closet, but do they have the right to stay in the closet?
The people
and that's a big difference.
The people that you talk about in your movie, you haven't given me numbers yet, but out of those, do you have proof that they are homosexual?
Absolutely. It's all in there. People talk, people who were former sexual partners. There's the case of Ed Schrock in which
they all come on there anonymously in your movie.
Well, again,
their silhouette.
Again, the folks who've reported on my blog have been out.
Let's end on this one question that I have.
Has other investigations going on, and I defend those investigations. People in the media, we never question the New York Times when they put forth an anonymous source. The only difference between my blog and the New York Times or the Atlanta Journal-Constitution is my blog has not been wrong, ever. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution is often wrong. The New York Times is wrong.
We're running out of time. What do you think this movie does for the gay community? Do you think it Puts it back? Puts it forward?
I think it puts it forward. I think that any time folks like you and I are having this discussion publicly and want to look into a camera and say, I believe that people have the right to do what they want, and they should expect the community that they are a member of to harbor them, to defend them, to protect them. I'm happy to have that debate.
Where does the movie play?
The movie opens Friday night at the E Street Theater and around the country.
Okay. I'm very curious to see it. I really do want to see it. Thank you for coming on today. And
thank you. I'll be there Friday, so maybe we can talk about it.
Okay.
They've got a date now.
Maybe that's when we'll have
More Let's Talk Live is coming up right after this.
Thank you.